Hello, everyone, and welcome to OHSCA Analysis. I am Vasu Bardwaj, and I am your host for today's episode. Today, we will be talking about Melissa Lantsman stepping into her new role as the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. To discuss this, we are happy to have with us the Deputy Leader and MP for Thornhill, Melissa Lantsman.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Melissa. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me on this again.
Well, you've definitely stepped very far up the ladder since we last had you on the show. I remember Vincenzo was interviewing you when you were running for candidacy for conservative candidate in Thornhill.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long, but it feels like it's been a while. I'm about a year and a little bit in, and it's been it's been quite a ride, both for me personally and for Canadians over the last year. And that's exactly, we've shifted our focus to what matters, and I'm excited to be such part of the team.
Yeah, well, the work that you've been doing is great. I've been seeing it all over social media and stuff, your general advocacy. So, Melissa, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started into politics.
Well, I've talked to many in your universe, people that will be watching this before, and I got started like a lot of people who are going to be watching this interview. I walked into a campaign office and I said, I'd like to help. What can I do? And then I kind of never left. I took a few breaks here and there. I made sure that my grades were good. I made sure that I was doing all of the right things in terms of going to university in my case. But I never really sort of got away from having the political bug. So that's, walk into an office. I'm here to help. That's how my journey started. And then I couldn't have imagined, being here what seems like a short time later, but about 20 years later.
Yeah, definitely getting started into politics at a young age not only helps you build many social skills, but it also helps to build your connections.
For sure.
And thank you, Melissa, for your time, and thank you for joining us. So without further ado, let's take a look and analyze and discuss Melissa becoming the new Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. So our first question comes from me. And so I wanted to ask you, what is the role of a deputy leader of the official opposition and what responsibilities do they have?
For sure. Well, we've got a unique situation where we've got two deputy leaders. So Tim Uppel is the other deputy leader. I'm on the left, he's on the right, not like that, but we could be the other way around. But he's got a certain set of responsibilities, and so do I. And both of our jobs is to support the leader in everything and anything that he wants to do. And it's to support our team, and it's support our colleagues, and it is to provide advice. And we all play a very unique role, but nothing works if we're not all rowing in the same direction. So part of my job is to make sure that happens, and that we're giving the best advice from all of the channels up to the leader. We obviously, attend events that he cannot attend, or if he's somewhere else. In some cases, that's the events of the House. In some cases, that's the events of the community. So a really exciting role where we can carve out some space, and at the core of it, we make sure that we are talking about what Canadians are talking about, and that is not what the government of Canada is talking about today.
Yep. And the work that you and Tim have been doing is great. You've been advocating for what many Canadians believe in, right? And this Trudeau government has not been doing so great. So moving on to our next question. This comes from Evan in Ottawa. So how did the process of transitioning from shadow transport minister to deputy leader look like?
Well, in my case, when I became shadow minister for transport, I had Stephanie Cusi. She's the MP from Calgary Mindapore. She was a transport critic before I was, and she taught me the ropes, and she left me everything in sort of in good stead. And that's sort of how it works. We make sure that that we leave. In my case, it's going to be Mark Strahl, who's an amazing parliamentarian, who's an experienced parliamentarian, and who knows this file. So there's not a whole lot I can pass on to Mark, but that's how the transition works. And for me, moving on to this role, it's a little bit different. I don't focus on being sort of 6 or 7 feet deep on singular issues. My focus has to be the issues that we're looking at. In our case, it's singularly right now the cost of living in Canadians, but it's about becoming a bit of an expert across the board with all of our great parliamentarians, all of the great MPs on our team, and those who support us.
So I want to ask a little bit of a follow-up to that. What kind of experience did the shadow transport ministry give you to become deputy leader?
So in some cases, there are people who come to a role with expertise in their private lives before they ran for office. But the shadow minister of transport doesn't have to be the pilot in our caucus. It just has to be somebody who is willing to dive deep into the matters that are important to Canadians as it has to do with that portfolio, and really become the expert. It's like cramming for an exam every single day to make sure that you know how to hold this government to account. So even though you might not be an expert in any one of the shadow ministers that you're appointed to, it's your job to become the expert. It's your job to know the file better than the minister does. And I think that we've got the right people in place to do that right now in all of our portfolios.
Yeah. So I want to move on to the next question. As a deputy leader, what do you envision as a future of the Conservative Party of Canada under the new leadership of Pierre Poilievre?
Look, I think we heard a lot of this during a very successful leadership campaign. I've never seen anything like it. Rooms of thousands of people, almost 100 times right across the country in a very short amount of time. That doesn't happen in politics, and the message was clear. We're going to give you more control over your life. We're going to cut taxes. We're going to cap government spending. So the drivers of inflation, this government spending, isn't going to put you in the red. And that's a message that resonates anywhere from Victoria all the way to Newfoundland and Labrador. And we saw that. The future of the party, this is the future of the party. It's a pragmatic government that puts Canadians back in the driver's seats, that makes sure that government is the servant and people are the masters. I'm so excited to be part of that. And look, the Conservative Party, if you had never voted before, if you've never voted Conservative, if you're, doesn't matter sort of who you are, where you were born, what your race is, what your ethnicity is, who you're married to, whether you pray on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, or not at all. There is a place for you in this party, because the number one issue for Canadians is how we're going to get through the next year, the next 18 months with a government that seems to not care that Canadians can't pay their bills.
Yeah, and speaking of bills, just today, the Bank of Canada raised interest rates once again, and many Canadians are seeing that things like their mortgages and loans bills are going up that they can't afford because of the debt that the Trudeau government put us in the last 2 years.
For
So
sure.
it's great to see Pierre Poilievre sticking up for these issues. And I know that you've been in politics for a pretty long time now, back all the way from when Stephen Harper was prime minister. So what would you speak on towards the total unity of the party as Pierre Poilievre is the new leader?
I mean, I certainly wasn't an MP in Stephen Harper's government, but I was around. The unity that we have on making sure that we're talking about the things that Canadians are talking about, like you said it yourself, 50 basis points today on an interest rise, and that's not the last one this year. It's not even the second one, last one this year. $500 billion of deficit, of inflationary deficits spent. 200 million of which had nothing to do with COVID. This is a homegrown domestic problem, and it's easy to unify against that because there is an easy solution to it. It's cut taxes, it's cap spending, and around those issues, around making sure that Canadians can put gas in their car, can put food on the table and heat their homes. That's an easy one to get excited about because conservatives know how to manage the finances. We're good at that. We've proven to be good at that. In the last recession, we were the last ones in it and the first ones out. And if conservatives are in power, that's exactly what's going to happen again.
Well, many analysts and many people are saying that we are in fact headed for a recession. So I don't think we'll be in the best hands of Prime Minister Trudeau when we head for one, as with their current track record, they don't have the most for like financial prosperity.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's very clear that over the last 7 years, they haven't taken fiscal responsibility very seriously. I think you heard in the last 2 weeks that they're starting to hedge their bets on that, and all of a sudden talking about cuts and reduced spending. We've been talking about this, and particularly the leader of the party has been warning about inflation for years now. So the chickens are coming home to roost, and I think Canadians know exactly which party in that House of Commons has their best interest in mind. And we're going to need everybody's help. We're going to need everybody who's watching to help us when the next election rolls around, and it can't roll around soon enough.
Yes. So I'd like to move on to the next question. So this comes from Hayden from York Simcoe, and he's asking, what advice would you give to young people like us who want to get involved in their communities and someday get to where you are?
For sure. I think you should say yes to everything. Try everything once. Get involved, whether it's your Rotary Club or your church group, your synagogue group, your mosque group, your temple. That's the way that community is created. That's the way that you connect to people. And on the political front, walk into an office that we just had in Ontario. We just had a municipal election. There were plenty of candidates that were great candidates. Walk in and help them, and you will meet the best friends in your life. You will make, you will create your network of where that goes, and stay involved in your community, in your high school community, eventually in your university community, and then in your adult life. Never lose the connection.
Well, I can personally relate to that. It was the last federal election where I actually got involved in helping campaigns and such. And that was probably some of the best times I've ever had, when it was just talking to people across in my community, right? Building the connections with MPs, candidates, and like everybody. So experience is something which you can't buy or study or anything. Experience is something you have to get out and do, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I look forward to seeing everybody who's watching this, join in on the effort at any campaign, any level. Hopefully the Conservative candidate in your ridings, because we're going to need all the help, and we're going to need to build the future of the party. And our leader has a very exciting vision that I think has attracted more young people than we've ever seen in the Conservative Party, and that makes me excited.
Oh yeah, and that's for sure. I can say that with Pierre Poilievre as the leader, I have no doubt that he will win the next election.
Still
So
gonna need your help though.
so I want to thank you, Melissa, for your time today, and we really appreciate you being with us. And we obviously wish you well in the future and your new role as a deputy leader of the party.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.